Bernie Sanders, to his credit, he did make a statement that this was wrong, what was happening to Glenn Greenwald. He deserves all of the support in the world, just like Julian Assange. However, I find it very peculiar that Bernie Sanders is, of course, willing to comment on an extremely similar case, but won't comment about Julian Assange. And so this is why we need to put the pressure on Bernie Sanders, not call him out or call him names, but put the pressure on him in an appropriate way and tell him that he needs to stand up for Julian Assange in the same way that he has stood up for Glenn Greenwald. And I give a lot of credit to Jimmy Dore, who tweeted this out. And he said that, Bernie, you need to stand up for Julian Assange, and you need to say that you will free him and that you will pardon him if you are president, and that you support Julian Assange. And so let's follow Jimmy Dore's lead. Let's follow Graham Elwood's lead and all of these other people who have said that we should not be giving him a free pass on this issue.
Yeah, the progressive proverb says Bernie listens to his base and we can move him left. If you are Bernie Sanders' base, this is something that you need to move him left on. It really is. What rang my damn bell was Bree Joy Gray, former senior politics editor at The Intercept, was on Twitter the entire day as all of this was unfolding and didn't have anything to say about it. Ro Khanna, Bernie Sanders' campaign co-chair, he came out with a very strong statement about Glenn Greenwald and saying that he is going to introduce legislation that will protect journalists. To what extent that looks like, to what the legislation is going to say, and to what chance it has of passing Congress, I don't know. It's good to hear. It would be impossible for that campaign not to make the connection.
Well, unfortunately, when that campaign does discuss this subject, it is not to apply pressure to Bernie. It is only to apologize and make excuses for him. So this is a repeated thing that we have been basically asking Bernie's supporters and campaign to do since the end of September. Beginning of October is when we revealed Bernie's answer on Julian Assange, and Dak Rouleau was the one who filmed that, and he hasn't said the man's name since. So,
I'm going on a year and a half of asking burners to do this.
Well, right. And so the only time we get them to discuss it is when they are making excuses and apologizing instead of applying pressure to Bernie to actually stand up for Assange.
Which is why we need people like Jimmy Dore directly addressing it. We need more people with larger independent media platforms to do it. And there's gonna have to be a reckoning with a lot of content creators who have turned their channels into a Bernie campaign ad.
Yeah, Jimmy Dore said here, quote, "Great to see Bernie defend Glenn Greenwald. We should all urge Bernie to stand up for Julian Assange as well. Hashtag free Assange." And this was a comment on a retweet of Sanders' tweet. I might as well just read his tweet right now. Bernie says, quote, "The free press is never more important than when it exposes wrongdoing by the powerful. This is why President Bolsonaro is threatening Glenn Greenwald for the crime of doing journalism. I call on Brazil to end its authoritarian attack on press freedom and the rule of law," end quote. This is interesting to me because here, this is kind of an example of how politicians are quick to point out the faults of other countries for abusing human rights and abusing their own power, but will not call upon the United States government when they act in the same way.
Well, not only that, but it's also a way to attack Trump, because Washington, D.C. knows that Trump and Bolsonaro are little buds. So it's a way to run against Trump and address Trump's war on journalism without ever having to say Julian Assange's name. And what that does is it automatically allows his supporters to say, well, clearly he means Julian Assange, but he can't say it because people will be mean to him.
Right. That somehow he will after he gets the nomination, he will say it. He's getting pressured not to say his name. You know, the Espionage Act comment, you know, somehow encompasses Julian Assange, even though he was explicitly speaking on whistleblowers, which Julian Assange is not. Yeah, we've heard a lot of them.
So
Yeah,
if I could,
Andrew, one quick statement. And then I'll let you go, I'm sorry. Really quick though, when we put pressure on these candidates, this is coming from all of us at the Free Assange Vigil. I want to make this very clear. We are asking people to be polite, respectful, and appropriate when asking them to stand up for Julian Assange, because you represent the movement here when you are contacting these individuals who have the power to free him. So do it in a respectful way, in a way that you would be proud of. It does not help this cause at all to call them names and to swear at them or be overly aggressive. And that is just one of the best ways to get somebody on your side and to get them to do something that you want them to do.